well met! Welcome to Counter Monkey. I am your humble storyteller, Spoony, and I'm here to tell you of my epic tales of adventure from the past so that you might laugh and maybe learn. Here's another story of a creature or an enemy so insurmountably powerful that, of course, the adventurers have no choice but to try to kill it. And in all of gaming, there are very few characters or even gods so insurmountable and powerful and unstoppable as the Lady of Pain. Who is the Lady of Pain, you may ask? I'm glad you did. Well, I have to start by introducing where the Lady of Pain comes from. And she comes from Planescape, or rather the wheel, or whatever you want to call it. Planescape is one of the stranger D&D settings, but also one of the most fun. And you can see several of the boxes here, some of which are quite rare. And I'm not really sure the reason for that, either short production runs or unpopularity or whatever. And it's very metaphysical. Actually, it's literally metaphysical, if you can think about that. And the whole premise of it is, it's almost like, what if all religions were perfectly valid? And they were all correct. And not only that, but they all existed, and they all talked to each other. Basically, it's the crossover universe for every religion ever. So, you have, every lawful good god basically lives in the same place. And it's typically known as Mount Olympus. But like every god that is good kind of lives on Mount Olympus. And so, you remember we talked about alignments, lawful good, lawful neutral, lawful evil, and stuff like that? Every one of those alignments has like an area of the afterlife, and it's all joined by this wheel. And so you can actually walk around the wheel and encounter every plane, every astral plane or whatever you want to call it, along the way. And so you're kind of walking around this weird amalgam of the afterlife and this metaphysical manifestation of morality and the homes of the gods. It's this really weird mix. So it's almost like if you were in a really weird, overblown God of War universe where it wasn't just like the Greek gods, but it was every god, and you could casually just run into one of them. So like Zeus might throw my ass off the top of Mount fucking Olympus, and there actually is a bottom to hit, because it's, Mount Olympus is a place, and you can hit the bottom, and it's an infinite distance down, but somehow you reach there. It's stuff like that makes Planescape very interesting. And when I say you can walk around the wheel to different planes, that's another weird part, is sometimes it takes you a day to go from one plane to the next, and sometimes it takes you 3 months. Don't know why. It's just kind of one of those things where the distance fluctuates. It bends and stretches depending on, convenience and the whim of the gods, and sometimes just the general shifting of the universe. Sometimes entire areas of the planes can shift over. They're called I can't remember what's like. There's a town called that's on the border between two moralities, and sometimes it shifts over between them, so it spontaneously appears in Carceri, which I think is the neutral evil ground. Carceri is this weird place. It's basically one giant prison. There's these floating cube prisons where there's endless conflict going on all sides of the cubes, and the cubes crash into each other, and it's really hard to picture, but it's cool, So the lawful evil place is the Seven Hells. The chaotic evil place is the Abyss. Not the Stygian Abyss from Ultima, it's the Abyss with 666 levels, where they don't call them demons or devils, they can't anymore, but they're called the Beta Zoo and the Tanari and stuff like that. Okay, so you've got all these afterlives. You got Mount fucking Olympus with that asshole Zeus who threw my ass off the mountain, and then you've got Bitopia, which is neutral. And so you got all these afterlives, and you got all these gods, and you've got living gods, and you got dead gods. And in the astral plane, there are literal husks of dead gods floating around In fact, there's an adventure in Planescape called Dead Gods, where you're actually kind of messing around with them, and I think there's one guy trying to bring a dead god back. So belief is a really huge part of Planescape. It's this direct correlation to how strongly people believe in a cause or a morality or a god or a pantheon of gods that makes them more powerful or more or less powerful. And there's a big focus on infinite conflict and the concept of infinity. There are a few infinite things in this universe that they have to continue or infinity would end. For instance, the Blood War. The Blood War is this thing where demons and devils are locked in an endless conflict. Basically, hell and the Seven Hells and the Abyss are trying to invade and conquer each other because they're both evil, but they subscribe to very different ideals of evil. One wants to be oppressive. Lawful evil is like oppression and, organizing everything under one iron-fisted rule, whereas chaotic evil is just destruction for destruction's sake, for wanton murder and destruction and things like that. And so there's only kind of room for one, and so they're actually, instead of attacking good people, they're attacking each other because they can't get along. They can't even decide on how to crush the good guys. You know what I mean? So, and the thing is, if one side were to win, everyone would lose because all of a sudden they would turn their attentions to all the good guys. So I could talk about Planescape forever because it's a really cool setting, and it's another one of those settings where it's very difficult to run because there's so much to talk about, and the power level of everything fluctuates so much. It's hard to know what you can and can't do, or even how to approach doing a story, because we are talking about a place where you can casually just kind of run into Thor, and if you piss the fucker off, he will hit you with Mjolnir and knock you halfway across into another fucking dimension. This happens, so. But the Lady of Pain, getting back to her, she lives in a place called Sigil. And if we once again talk about this wheel, it's like, imagine a giant pizza, okay? And all of the other dimensions kind of lay on the end of this pizza. I should really go for a pizza right now. But it's kind of this infinite landscape that's circular, and you got all these planes around it. Now, in the center of this pizza, there is, how like, what's it called? You know how sometimes when you graph an equation, it asymptote. An asymptote where it starts off as a curve and then it shoots up basically infinitely, as so something will approach infinity and it shoots straight upward. That's what happens to the spire, is the spire goes up and it curves and then shoots up. So it shoots up to infinity. At the top of this infinite spire, which is impossible, at the top of the infinite spire is Sigil. And Sigil is a city that's shaped like a donut. A donut on top of an infinite pizza. I don't make this up. It's a torus, but it's a donut. So what Sigil is I want to say neutral ground, but it's not. It's a gigantic city that... It's basically where all of these different ethoses and moralities and basically everything from everywhere meets. It's like if there was a Mos Eisley of the afterlife, that would be Sigil. Okay, so everything can happen there. You'll be walking down the street and you'll see a gang of fucking demons kind of rocking down there. And then you'll see a bunch of devils walk out of a tavern, and then they'll start kicking the shit out of each other, and you better not get in the way because they're badass. This shit just happens. It's also called the City of Doors. And you gotta be real fucking careful in Sigil because there are an infinite number of doors in Sigil. And they're not doors like you might expect, turn a knob and go in there, although you have to be careful of those as well. There are doors that are portals. And these portals will open... They will open to other places, naturally, but I mean, like, they will open to other dimensions sometimes. They'll open to other parts of Sigil. You might walk through a portal and end up talking right to Mephistopheles on the, whatever circle of hell. Shit happens. And you won't know where they are, and you don't know where they lead. unless those portals have been specifically mapped, and they're almost never completely mapped. You can't. So, what do I mean by portals? Okay, well, anything that's vaguely door-shaped or arch-shaped or any kind of closed circle or anything like that could be a portal. And so they're not always open all the time, but they will open for something. And it could be a password, like if there's an archway, and if I said the word goober, it will open up, and all of a sudden you got a portal going somewhere. But it doesn't need to be a word. Maybe it's something where you have to wear a silver ring on your left hand, and this portal opens and it takes you somewhere. Or maybe it's something where you have to hop through on one foot, or it's something to where only blonde people can go through it, or maybe it's something where if you just have a really funny thought going through your head, then it opens. Or maybe if you have a pulse, it opens, which not everyone in Planescape does. If you're a Modron, you don't. Maybe it's something that where if you have a piece of beef jerky in your pack, it opens. You can never fucking tell. So honestly, that's one of the best ways DMs can just get you to go anywhere, is that, you step through an archway and you hit a thing and the portal opens up and you're in hell. It's kind of the DM's way of hand-waving anything away. It's a good one, but there you go. And if you've ever played, probably the most exposure you've had to it is Planescape Torment, which is a very, very good, if not one of the best, one of the best computer RPGs ever made, just because that's a perfect example of how that story is told, to where you have a premise that on its face is ridiculous, if not completely broken, and from there you tell one of the most heart-wrenching and dramatic stories I've ever seen in a computer game. To where in that game you play this guy who has no memory, but his skin is basically all scars. I mean, like, there is no patches of fresh skin on his face. This guy has apparently at some time in the past just been fucking flayed, run through a Cuisinart, and somehow has been put back together. This guy is just a solid mass of scar tissue, and he's covered head to toe in tattoos. And these tattoos are really weird, and they say different things. There's actually a whole fucking letter to himself on his back and things like that. And so the thing about the Nameless one is that he can't die. And you're like, that's stupid. How does that even work? You can't die. You can't die in an RPG. What's the point? And you're like, you can't lose then. That's the funny part, or that's the interesting part, is why can't you die? Why do you keep coming back? And that's the mystery that you have to unlock. And there is a challenge in it. There are ways to lose even though you can't die, if you know what I mean. So it's as you go on, you discover all these secrets about yourself, and you really wander a great deal of the Planescape universe. It's very fascinating, and it's very much a character study more than anything. It's not really about the gameplay, although it's very good. But that's, you can kind of be anything you want to be. It also has another really great morality system to it, where you can kind of play any one of a number of ways, from the paragon of nobility and goodness to literally an insane gibbering monster. It works any one of these ways, and it's actually very interesting to play as this paranoid, raving madman, because, minor spoilers but not a big one, sometimes when you die and come back to life, your personality has shifted, and so this guy has kind of run through a shitload of various personalities, and so you can just play it as though this guy, at one point, you just woke up as this guy, this horrible, horrible guy. And so it kind of raises this question of nature versus nurture and stuff like that. Really, really fucking fascinating. And it's a perfect introduction to Planescape, and it really makes you want to play the RPG. But if you don't know, this is where it comes from, is 2nd edition AD&D. That's Planescape. Winding it back around to what I was talking about, I still not have talked about the Lady of Pain. Okay. Inside the Donut City of Sigil, there are an infinite number of doors, of course, and these doors lead anywhere. The person who controls these doors is the Lady of Pain. What is the Lady of Pain, or what does she look like? Well, she generally looks like this. She is a lady, and her symbol is most traditionally her face surrounded by just like a huge number of massive fucking blades. She is, to define her loosely, a goddess, sort of. That's more accurately what she looks like, and you see her kind of moving around. You will not often see her, but when you're in Sigil, you will maybe see her sometimes, either walking down the street or floating over the street. She never says anything. In fact, she rarely pays attention to anybody at all. But when you do see her, run. Fucking run. Don't look at her. Don't speak to her. Oh my God, don't speak to her. Don't get in her way. If you see her, turn tail and run as fast as you can, close as many doors behind you as you can, and hope to God she didn't see you. Run. Why? Well, there's a few reasons. She controls all of Sigil. She is the ultimate gatekeeper of every door that leads in and out of Sigil. And here's the key to Sigil. Sigil is the one place where the gods cannot enter. Gods can go anywhere. They're gods. That's what they do. They teleport. They can, if they want to, they can invade other planes. There's not much point to it, but they can. They can go anywhere, anytime, and do anything they want. Except Sigil. This annoys them greatly. So, they try to get in, and they can't. Because the Lady of Pain won't let them. Think about that. The Lady of Pain has the power to not let gods into her city. And they've tried. They've tried hard. Because they would really like to control it. Who wouldn't want to control a city where they can send armies anywhere they want? You know, and besides, some gods rankle at the idea of not being able to control this. But that gives you a minor hint as to her ultimate power, is that the gods can't fuck with her. So what the hell is she? She is fucking fearsome. And there's another reason nobody fucks with her. It's because she, despite what I said about, belief bestowing power and all that, she is not a goddess in that nobody worships her. Nobody who wants to live that long. She, if there's one thing that obviously pisses the Lady of Pain off, it's people who worship her. There have been people who have tried to build temples to her, or preach her gospel on the street. She has no gospel, but try to worship her or revere her or convert them to their religion. They end up dead. They end up dead fast, and they usually end up dead in very, very messy and physically impossible ways. Usually turned into strips of quivering, bloody, sizzling bacon, nailed to various aspects of the street and the lamppost and that place over there. Yeah, they're pretty much turned into cube diced bacon. And that's if you're lucky. They die horribly, messily, and in explosive ways. So then you're like, well, what does she want? I don't know. Nobody knows. And that's really what's great about the Lady of Pain, is she is. There are very few mysteries left. Especially in a game like Planescape, where basically everything is laid bare. The gods are not even a mystery anymore. Their motivations are very clear. Their home has been defined. There are maps of Mount Olympus. You want to go find fucking Zeus, you have his address. You can go there. If you want to go to hell and fight somebody, I used to joke about that in old school D&D. You can go there. There's a fucking book. Fucking Hellbound. The Blood War. This defines, fucking hell. Planes of Conflict. These define the planes of chaos. This is actually the UK printing. Very hard to find. What else I got? I got a book to Sigil. I got like 3 monster compendium appendices, 4, I think. There's this is awesome. There's actually an audio CD. There's this thing called a mimir, which is a floating skull. And what a mimir does, it's like a magically enchanted tour guide. It floats around, and you can ask it shit, and it tells you things. And so, like a mimir, it's like a Wikipedia for Sigil. That's what it is. So, like, these guys will sell them to you. They'll sell you these magic skulls, and you'll be like, okay, what's Bitopia? And then the skull will tell you what Bitopia is. And so there's actually this audio CD that if the players ask the Mimir what Sigil is, it winds up and it tells you what it is. It's a cool thing for characters who don't want to read like all these fucking boxes, and it gives the players kind of an anecdotal, easy to remember breakdown, like basically a 30-second breakdown of wherever they are. It's really cool that way. But this is awesome. You've probably seen this if you've ever been to like a half-price books or something like this. And you're like, what is this audio CD? What? This is when AD&D was kind of on this kick of doing audio CD supplements. Like they did this thing for Kingdoms of Mystara, First Quest type of stuff. There was a really kind of crappy adventure. Oh, yeah. Hang on. They did this audio adventure called Mystara Mark of Amber. I hated this one. Really poorly acted, but really not a very good adventure, I found. But yeah, there was that. There's Red Steel. I never got to play Red Steel all that much, but this one came with a different adventure. This was basically... Red Steel is kind of a more Three Musketeers era type of game. And the premise behind Red Steel was... there's only one specific area of the land where they find this red steel, red ore that can be refined into steel, and it's like the best. It makes steel swords break, steel swords get dull. Not red steel. Red steel is like this really awesome ore that it's highly coveted and highly prized, but nobody can get it, and so everyone's going to war over this thing. There's like flintlock guns. Things like that. And so I never played this one, but I did listen to the CD. It's okay. Nobody plays Red Steel, though. It's kind of one of those, like, Birthright. Birthright was this kind of weird thing where basically the characters are immortals from Highlander, where I think you had to... There's, like, everyone had a special knife, and you had to stab the guy in the heart to get their power. It was Highlander. But, yeah. Birthright was one of those unique things, though, where you kind of ruled a barony, or you had, like... You kind of ruled over a little, not kingdom, but a little parcel of land. You had a castle, you had retainers and stuff like that. So it wasn't just your character, you actually had servants and like an army. Anyway, so it had that thing. Where the fuck was I? Oh yeah, nobody fucks with Lady of Pain. And so, the reason, like, you never know, if you see the Lady of Pain, nobody knows what she's up to. Nobody knows where she's going, what she's doing, or what business she has wandering around. And you don't want to know. So that's why I say if you see her, run. Because if you piss her off, oh God, you'll die if you're lucky. And I say that because the Lady of Pain not only can kill you if you really torque her off, like if you get in her way. She does not like being told, "You're in my way, ma'am." No. She'll either kill you and just like instantly, like she doesn't have to, like there's no fighting her. You'll lose. The Lady of Pain is you lose. It's one of, I love characters like that. You remember when I talked about Babylon 5, Vorlons are you lose? That's what the Lady of Pain is. And there's almost nothing in D&D that's just you lose. Even like the most fearsome monster that's in kind of the monster manual called the Tarrasque, which is basically Godzilla. You can beat the Tarrasque. It's virtually impossible, but it can be done. You know, and by the way, if your party actually beats the Tarrasque, you're DMing it wrong. But yeah, there is a way to kill the Tarrasque. As unlikely as it is, there is no killing the Lady of Pain. There is no wounding the Lady of Pain. There's not even any touching the Lady of Pain. It doesn't happen. So, the thing she can do to you, the most common thing she can do to you if you really torque her off, is called, she can maze you. What's mazing, you may ask? Well, she not only has the power to control the portal, she can make them, and she can control where they go. She can create little pocket dimensions on where they go. So if you make her really mad, she'll maze you. And a maze is an extra dimensional pocket dimension that's a maze. Virtually impossible to escape from. And in this maze, you don't die. You don't eat. You don't have to sleep. And the only thing you can possibly do is try to find your way out of a maze. And it's not like your traditional hedge maze. It's not like that. It's not like a labyrinth, although it can be. It can be anything she wants it to be. Basically, the maze is another thing where you lose. It can be used as an adventure hook, where like everyone gets thrown to the same maze and they have to find their way out. It's a good hook. And there are escapes from the maze. Again, virtually impossible, but can be done. If you do escape from the maze and you piss the Lady of Pain off again, why? Why would you do that? Why? Fuck. It's... You get out of the maze, you're like, okay, this time it's personal. No, don't do that. No. Actually, no matter... wow. There's very, like, don't tug on Superman's cape. Don't tug on the Lady of Pain's neck blades or whatever. Don't do it. Okay, so the maze. And actually, in Planescape Torment, you can get mazed. There are ways to piss the Lady of Pain off. You never see her explicitly, but there are these guys who... I think there's one guy who sells you a doll made in the form of the Lady of Pain, and you can, like, wave it around at people, like, preaching, like, worship the Lady of Pain, I have this doll. I don't know. I actually think you can, like, play with the doll, and if you do it, like, a certain number of times, the Lady of Pain finally flies down and just goes, boop, mazed. And so there's actually a level where you escape from the maze, and if you piss the Lady of Pain off again, she just kills you. And she is, like, one of the only things that can kill you. So that's, again, and you'll try, in Planescape Torment, you'll actually try to work it out where, like, you'll try to kill yourself. You can't. The Lady of Pain can kill you. So... you win? I don't know. Actually, I've never tried it. I've never tried to get mazed twice. I'm not that stupid. I actually don't know if she outright kills you or if she just throws you in a maze where you have no chance to escape. Because she can do that. Yeah. Actually, I don't know if there has to be an exit, but being the Lady of Pain, I would think not. She having a sense of fair play, maybe she'll give you an exit, maybe. But yeah, even in Planescape Torment, you can get mazed. And no, you can't kill her. You can't kill her, period. Anywhere. Anytime, no matter what. And if the DM lets you, you're doing it wrong. Never try to define the Lady of Pain. And that's one of the saving graces of the Lady of Pain is they never statted her. So, whereas before I said if you stat it, they will kill it. They've never statted the Lady of Pain. But I have had a character try to kill her. Well, again, there's no killing her, and I think the player knew that, but they wanted to stick it to her. There is no sticking it to the Lady of Pain. Here's how. And I think this player had... this was like an Ocean's 11 type of fucking plan, where I'm guessing he read, like, everything he could about the Lady of Pain, like every supplement he could, and he's like, how do I beat this bitch? So this had to be like a year in the making, like no shit. So, you know, there's lots of books, but basically every entry in the Lady of Pain is like, don't, because like nobody, like, there's nothing to talk about, you know, she doesn't have any goals, or if she does, there's no hindering her. She does what she wants, and there's no stopping her because you lose, you know. So the only thing that's ever really established is that sometimes instead of killing you, she'll maze you. So that was like the one thing that she can do to you that you can get out of. You follow? So like, I think he got it in his mind that the Lady of Pain would just keep mazing him. If, like, I don't know, but he wanted to be the guy who escaped from the Lady of Pain's maze. So he put a shitload of thought into this. So keep in mind that even if you get mazed, escaping is virtually impossible. Okay. So even if you get maze, it's basically a worse than death sentence. Pardon me. So, we're setting up. I'm setting up this Planescape game. I think we're starting him at level 5. So he brings me this character, and it's this really off the wall character. But in the course of Planescape, it's kind of like an anything goes setting. You can pretty much bring anything to the table when it comes to Planescape, because again, this is the sort of place where all continuities, all various gaming worlds, all of them meet. Okay, so again, this is all gods, all worlds. So if you have a character from Forgotten Realms, and you have one from Greyhawk, and you have one from Mystara, if you have one from Dragonlance, they can all meet here, and all the monsters there can meet here, because whenever you basically, like, whenever you cross dimensions, they go to this crossover universe. Whenever you do astral travel, that's where you go. So you can have pretty much any monster race you want, anything you want, be a player character. So I can actually show you some of the books, because I have to, actually, because, hang on a second. So he has, where is it? It's Monster, no, not Monster Mythology. It's, oh, fuck. You'd think I'd have these organized by now. Whatever. Okay, that was useless. No, okay, so you've got these books that every race basically has a write-up. You know, they have splat books for all these. So let me look. You've got, I'm gonna just run through some of these. You know, you got what's a paladin? I don't know. You got rangers, but where I'm getting at is races. Oh, Jesse, you top-heavy bitch. She's top-heavy in more ways than one. Where did I put that fucking book? Ooh. This was a good one. Ah. Monster Mythology. Was it Monster Mythology? I don't think so. Huh. I don't know. Might find it through here. Monster Mythology is kind of like the gods of various monsters. Yeah, so like if you really want to know what the gods of, oh my god, I never read this shit. What the gods of the goblins are, they're in here. Because sometimes you gotta know, right? So, because these gods exist, there's a god named Blibdulpoop. Blibdulpoop. I'm not even kidding. Yeah. Blibdulpoop. I think it's a troglodyte god or something like that. Gods of the Scaly Folk. Yeah. This was a weird book. And of course they stat these gods too. Jesus Christ. This isn't it. Oh, this is it. This is it. This is what I'm looking for. The Book of Humanoids. This is basically like every monster that is even remotely humanoid, is given a race build for AD&D, and you can imagine already how ridiculous this gets. So, if you want to be a satyr, I don't know if you can see that. If you want to be a satyr like Torgo, there it is. If you want to be a Sauriel, which is a dinosaur man, a Swan May, which is basically a swan human person, half orc, half ogre, ogre mage, shit, a mongrel man. Why would you want to play a mongrel man? I don't know, but he has a cool lobster claw hand. So yeah, you can run into all these things. So, this character, long story, very long story short, too late, he brings me a Minotaur. Okay. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh. Wow, you reached for this one. Really? And he's like, yeah, I want to be a Minotaur. I'm like, wow. Why? He's like, it's cool. So I'm like, well, it's undoubtedly cool, but that's just kind of off the wall. You had to go digging for this. You had to go looking in the Book of Humanoids, because if you, and I'll get to this, but I was like, wow, okay. Then I'm looking at the alignment thing, because I don't really want anyone like evil aligned. And usually in the monster manuals, they're all evil. In fact, it says in the monster manual they're basically all irredeemably evil. But here, there are exceptions. I'm like, okay. Alright, you're a Minotaur. So, I don't really think anything of this, because of course I'm like 15 years old or some shit. I don't even remember how old I was. No, I was older than that, because I was working in the game store, so I was probably around 18. I was not a very good DM back then, of course. But this is one of the stories I'm much more proud of. In fact, this story has only gotten better with time, because I've discovered some things about it. So, here's what happens. We're fucking around in Sigil. I'm kind of giving the adventure hook. And this guy is doing everything he can to fucking piss off the Lady of Pain. And one of the best ways to do it is to beat the shit out of the Dabus, or whatever, Dabus, or there's these things called the Dabus, who, if you've played Mass Effect, you remember the Keepers, those little bug things that are working on shit and computers, and the basic rule is don't fuck with them? That's what the Dabus are, essentially, is there's these little critters that kind of wander around and they're fixing things. They just kind of fix things on Sigil, even things that don't need to be fixed, or they're just like hammering at shit, and you're like, what? Don't fuck with them. Don't even talk to them, because if you talk to them, they actually talk in like shapes. Like little shapes will appear over their head. So there'll be like a cone and a cube and a jack-in-the-box coming out, and they're like, what the fuck? So yeah, don't fuck with the Dabus. So he starts going around like pushing Dabus around. Like, what are you gonna do? Stupid. Hey, he's acting like Biff Tannen. He's like, what? You gonna start talking cones at me? Yeah, fuck you. And so I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? And he's like, what? I'm a Minotaur. I can push these little fuckers around. He's playing chaotic neutral or some shit. So he's like, I'm like, what? You're actually kind of causing a scene here, man. You're kind of like bullying fucking Dabus. What did they do to you? He's like, I hate fucking Dabus. And I'm like, what are you doing? You know, like he's actually he's brought the game to a complete halt. And I'm like, you do realize that you shouldn't fuck with Dabus, right? And he's like, yeah, I know that. And I'm like, so I go, yeah, I'm not mad. I'm just confused. Like, he's seriously calling down the thunder here, and I wonder if he thinks I'm like bluffing, like I won't just fucking hit him. So I'm like, okay, after like 10 minutes of this, you see everyone in the street who's kind of staring at you, they look up and they run like Satan was chasing after them. And he's like, he's very lucky that the Lady of Pain just didn't kill him outright. But you know, I was in my head, I was like, the Lady of Pain is actually very curious as to who would be so fucking suicidal as to just blatantly basically call her out. So she flies down, and he turns around and basically just smiles at her, and she's like, mazed. And this is where he made his play. The ultimate play. He thought he got me. And for a second, I thought he did too. So he goes, aha! I've been mazed, have I? And I go, yeah, your ass has been mazed. And he goes, well, you do realize that Minotaurs can never be lost in a maze, right? And I go, I didn't know that. And he goes, Minotaurs live in mazes. I go, huh. So they can never be lost in a maze. He's like, that's right. So I'm going to be in this maze, and I'm going to find my way right back out. He's really proud of this. Like, inordinately, he's like, I got a way out of the Lady of Pain's maze. Okay, now, when I was doing my research on this story, because I like to do a little bit of research to see if I'm remembering it properly, but I do distinctly remember that he said that Minotaurs cannot get lost in a maze. So I was like, that can't be true. But why would he say that if it wasn't true? So then I'm like, shit. So I start going through my books, you know, like, I got the Monster Manual, I got this fucking thing, I got, I start looking through the Planescape Monsters Compendiums, I got 3 of those, I got fucking, Ravenloft Monsters Compendiums, I got Forgotten Realms, I got these monstrous compendia, whatever. Look at this shit. I got so many of these, and I got campaign settings. I got they all have their own monster thing. This fucking box set, where the, this box set has a monstrous supplement in it. So like, I'm like, fuck. I look. First thing I look is in this book. I look in the core book, right, and I'm like Minotaur. I look in the book of humanoids, and it doesn't say anything about not getting lost in a maze, you know? So I'm like, what? Where did he get this? So I look in here, where they got the Minotaur entry, and it doesn't say anything about that. You know, it just doesn't. And so I go through every single... It took me all day. I lost a day to work because of this asshole. So I'm looking through... There's like 5 Minotaurs, and... Oh, there's another one. Shit. Fucking... Dragonlance. This is actually where... Dragonlance is one of the few campaign settings that have Minotaurs as a playable race, like, right out of the box. So, like... And the Minotaurs in that game don't even live in mazes. The Minotaurs in Dragonlance are just a seafaring race of dudes. They look like Minotaurs, but they're just people who... They're just sailors, you know, that's it. So, yeah, Kryn Minotaurs, you know? So, like, they're just guys, and so I'm looking at here, like, do they live in mazes? Shit, there's actually a picture of a Minotaur swinging on a rope. Minotaur pirates. Bet you never thought of that one till now. So... They can be fighters, fighters, barbarians, rangers, and they can be a wizard of high sorcery. Awesome. A wizard wearing the robes of sorcery. That's cool. So, I'm looking at here and I'm like, this is my last book. So, like, I'm looking at 6 fucking hours I've been looking through these books, and I can't find anything that says that they can't get lost in a maze. You know, like, and now I'm really confused. Like, did I remember it wrong? Or where the fuck did he get this? And so by the end of this, I'm like, he lied to me. So actually, this makes it even better, the end of the story, that he lied to me because I still fucked him over. But I didn't fuck him over. He tried to fuck me over, and I counter-fucked him. But I was even more proud of myself knowing that he lied to me. Now, I asked around on Twitter. I was like, is it just me? Like, he told me this shit, and like, he had to get it from somewhere. I could not believe that he just pulled this out of his ass. Like, he had to find something that he may have misconstrued, or something. Like, I can't believe he wouldn't do this if I called him out on it, like, he would point at something and be like, this is what it says. I didn't call him out on it, because it kind of made sense to me at the time. I'm stupid. But... You know, he just kind of blitzed this past me, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, the Minotaur can't get lost. Not ignoring the fact that the mythical Minotaur, the entire reason he was in the labyrinth was because he was lost in it. You know, so I'm asking around, and apparently, in one of the older editions of Dungeons and Dragons, it says that it doesn't explicitly say that they cannot get lost in a maze, but it says something like they cannot be confused or disoriented in a maze. Something really vague like that, where it doesn't say, like, if a Minotaur enters a maze, he instantly knows the way out. It says something like he has a great sense of direction and is not confused upon being in a maze-like structure. So either he lied, or he took this really obscure statement from an older edition's monster manual, which means he had to research this shit just to find that entry to fuck with me. And then he made a character based on that entire premise, also for the sole purpose of calling out the Lady of Pain, getting mazed, and then escaping just so he could say he did it. It was almost like he was trying to do a speed run of the Lady of Pain's maze. In fact, that was pretty much it. Where he's like, yeah, I got mazed. No big deal. Got out in an hour. How fast did you get out? Want to go try it? Bet you can't. Like, It was some kind of weird bragging rights thing. Or I don't even know. So like he goes, yeah, I can't get lost in a maze, dude. So wherever I end up, I know the way out. Choke on D's nuts. And I'm like, I didn't even have to think that long because, you know, I'm stupid for believing that whole can't get lost in a maze bullshit, but I did pretty much instantly, after like 30 seconds of stood, I'm like, okay, he can't get lost in a maze. Now I ask you, what would you do? No, if let's just say that was true. If the Lady of Pain can create a pocket dimension at will of any shape, any size, and let's just say she had to put an exit, you know, there has to be a way out. What would you do? And I was like, you know, I guess I'm the kind of guy who's kind of used to dealing with the wish spell of being able to turn a wish spell against the user if they've angered me somehow. So I'm like, okay, well, you get mazed, and here's what happens. You appear at the end of a hallway, a blank, featureless gray hallway that's just sheer, not slick, but smooth walls. There's no cobbling, there's no sign of like rock work, you know, there's no plaster or grouting in between the seams of stones. There's no stones. It's just flat, featureless gray walls around you. And it continues off into darkness. And he goes, this isn't a maze. And I go, no, it's not a very good maze. In fact, you know the way out instinctively. According to your logic, you know exactly where the way out is. And it's about 100 million miles down that straight hall. And he's like, Newman! And I'm like, you fucked with the Lady of Pain, dude. And you thought you were so fucking smart. You were not smart, my man. And so I was actually very proud of myself because I almost didn't, I basically didn't lose stride. And there's very few times I will pat myself on the back and be like, dude, I got that guy. I got him cold. But it's one of those, this is one of those like really ultimately pointless stories of how far a player will go for bragging rights. You know, this guy, he was reading the Planescape book, and he basically reads the entry. I'll see if I can find the entry actually on the Lady of Pain. Where is the Lady of Pain? She's in a few places. Now I want to find it. This is always really interesting, right? Hell with it. Oh, here it is, Lady of Pain. Let me see if there's anything interesting I can read. The Lady of Pain's about power, the power to block the doors of Sigil to all deities. She's the protector of the cage and the one being that keeps the Sigil safe. The Lady of Pain's real, but nobody ever talks to her. Nobody. She's not kind or caring, and a Burke can't expect mercy from her. On a whim, she'll aid, but more often she just kills. A lot of people think she created Sigil, where others think if Sigil's just all her dream. Yeah, so like basically the rule is you don't fuck with her, you know. So as soon as he reads that, he's like, "Well, now I gotta fuck with her, right?" So like, there's no stats, so he can't kill her, right? Because of course, if there's no stats, you can't kill her. And there's stats for everybody in Planescape. You want to fight Zeus, you're gonna lose, but there's stats for Zeus, you know, whatever. Ain't no stats to the Lady of Pain, but you can at least achieve a moral victory over the bitch. So like that's the one thing that he's like, what's the one thing that you can get one over on the Lady of Pain? Gotta be the mazes. So he seriously, like, I have to picture like he had a shelf of books this goddamn big, and he combed through every one of them looking for a way to, I think it was basically just to get out of the maze without having to go adventuring through it. Like, maybe, I actually thought at the time he was trying to, like kind of hijack the campaign, maybe to get everyone thrown in a maze, so they had to fight their way out. I was like, It's annoying because I was trying to run this really cool adventure I wrote, but I was like, yeah, I just kind of wanted to see where he was going with this. Because I kind of smelled a trap, but I was like, there's nothing you can do to her, you know? So he gets mazed, and I just think he wanted to do it and be like, okay, there's a fucking maze. I know the way out. You know, it's not going to take me no infinite amount of time. It might take me a day. No, it's going to take you about 1,000,000 years. So I was like, yeah, in 1,000,000 years you'll get out because I don't think you'll die of old age. The Lady of Pain won't let you. So yeah, good luck with that. That's the end of the story. It's I think the moral you can take away from this is no matter how insurmountable a challenge or no matter how clear you make it to a character, how foolish an action might be, if he's got his mind set on it, he'll end up doing it. Or he'll end up trying to find a way to move heaven and earth and make the most twinked out character he can just to prove you wrong. So, yeah. I think that's the most extreme example of a character, of a player character trying to do something that should never be attempted. Even more so than Cthulhu. And I know that sounds silly to compare the Lady of Pain to Cthulhu. But the whole purpose of the Lady of Pain is specifically to offer one place in the entire multiverse where even Great Cthulhu cannot enter. You know what I mean? So that's like, in this place there is no... I was almost going to say there's magic, we don't have to explain it. There's magic there, but there's no such thing as Zeus throwing you off the fucking spire. The only guy who can throw you off the spire is the Lady of Pain. And there's very few, like, it's just, that's just how it works. She is, you know, so... let me... They're really... I said that was a moral, but that's not much of a moral. That's just kind of a warning about the depths players will sink just to do it. You know, I guess I can sympathize to a certain degree, because nobody likes to be told what they can't do. Maybe not to that degree, but, yeah... I think part of it is maybe like a challenge to oneself. Like I know what it is. I know what it is. This is, whenever they read in a book that something can't be done, that's their Kobayashi Maru. That's what it is. I don't believe in the no-win scenario. That's what that person said when he saw the Lady of Pain, and it just said, "Thou shalt not fuck with the Lady of Pain." And he's like, "I think I shall fuck with the Lady of Pain, thank you very much. Don't tell me who I cannot fuck with, sir." So, yeah, that was it. He's like, I'm gonna Captain Kirk this bitch. I am gonna find a way to win the no-win scenario. And I took it away. Now I feel bad. No, I don't. I took away his solution to the no-win scenario. No doubt he's still trying to think of a way. How do I get out of the maze fucking immediately? There's no way. The Lady of Pain is the DM's no. No matter what, the DM says no. You know, maybe, like, basically I think the Lady of Pain's main function, other than keeping the deities out, is to keep players from, no matter how powerful they get, is to keep them from basically taking over Sigil. Which, you know, could happen, or in case the campaign gets out of hand, or in case something boils over, because even in Sigil there's like 8 different factions that are vying for control of Sigil. So maybe if something happens to where like an entire faction just is about to collapse, or one side is about to get an inordinately huge amount of power, or take over a significant part of Sigil, the Lady of Pain just goes, no. She can just do that, like, no. And she can, like, no matter what, she can just erase. Because she is the reset button. She is that. So, yeah, that's... I love this show sometimes, because I can spontaneously solve my own mysteries. And I can also waste an extraordinary amount of time looking up in about 20 different fucking monster manuals about what Minotaurs can and can't do. And then not finding the answer. I can't believe how obscure that was. So, take away from that what you will. I certainly learned something just now, and I hope you did too. Until next time, I'll have another story from you straight from the vaults of my own epic adventures.